Welcome to another episode of Auto Off Topic. I'm here. This is Brad here with Andrew, and we have a guest tonight who goes by the name Jeff.
Hey guys.
I assume he goes by the name Jeff because that was his name his parents gave him, but we're not going to get too deep into that. So anyway, Jeff is known on the internet as Jalopy Jeff. So if you're looking to get into the social media following, we're going to do that right away so that we can get your name out there, Jeff, and we don't have to wait till the end when nobody listens anymore. So Jalopy Jeff is Jalopy Jeff on TikTok and Instagram, correct?
Yeah, YouTube, all that.
Oh yeah, and YouTube. Can't forget that.
Mostly videos. So
yeah. So we have a couple things to talk about, Jeff. Talk about with Jeff today. First off, Andrew, what's new? Anything?
Not too much. Kind of, still middle of winter here. We're getting there. We're almost there. I think.
If you're by definition, if it's the middle of, you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, I guess we're towards the tail end though. It's
Yeah.
March, another month, be into April, but should have some warmer days. Gonna start doing some more car projects. I've got parts coming. I'll have some updates coming up in the next couple episodes. A lot of parts being imported from Japan. So
Excellent. And there's no overnight shipping from Japan right now. So
no, I mean regular shipping is expensive enough.
yeah, and it's also like months and months out right now, right?
No, DHL is like 3 or 4 days.
Oh, it's not too bad.
No, but it's still very expensive.
Yeah, air freight. Excellent. So, Jeff, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm great, actually. Just going through the motions, really.
Excellent. So, like I said, Jeff is here because he's obviously big into cars. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here. I know Jeff. Jeff lives out here in Phoenix near me. We actually work together, a little behind the scenes there. But we also do a lot of like the Saturday morning cars and coffees together because we have similar interest in cars.
Yeah, weird how that works out.
Yeah, right. Anybody who also listens to the other podcast that I recently became part of for the autohunter.com podcast also knows that Jeff is one of the two co-hosts there as well. So you kind of already get a little heads up on who Jeff is. But Jeff, for our uninitiated listeners, what brings you to the world of cars? If you want to give like a little quick who you are, why you're here, what you do.
Yeah, sure.
Or start from the beginning. What brought you here? What brought you to cars?
Yeah, so I was raised in the world of like classic muscle. So I grew up with mostly stuff that my dad had. So that would be like a 73 Vet. That'd be like a 68 Pontiac Le Mans. He also had like some British stuff, including like a Bug Eye Sprite at one point and a TR7 that he still has. So I grew up around muscle cars, going to like classic car shows, that type of thing. And it was just one of those things that when you get your like first book of like, 365 cars types of thing that you like must drive. I think this one had like a Lamborghini Murcielago on the cover. And it was one of those things that started opening up my world a little bit more to what other cars were out there other than, American boxy goodness. So fan of everything.
It's funny. That's a similar.
Do you have the same dad?
Yeah, I was going to say, I grew up with my father with muscle cars and the occasional British sports car mixed in. So there's some heavy similarities there, which is probably a big reason why Jeff and my car taste is very similar. We notice we have some pretty hefty disagreements on some of the hot rod stuff, which we were talking about earlier today, actually. Yeah. But overall, we have a very similar taste, and it's probably because we were raised by a muscle car guy with a side dish of British sports cars, right?
Yeah, who just dabbles. So we should have Cobras, Brad, is what we should have.
Hey, listen, if money no object, I would certainly have one in the garage. I'm sure you would too, but we're neither of us are there yet.
Yeah,
let's hope that we can take this social media to the next level, and we can all afford Cobras someday.
Well, you know what? What I do want to point out, Brad, is we talked about muscle cars and British cars, right? Now, you obviously are heavy into like a lot of the JDM stuff. I know you like everything, but if you think about it, the Miata is actually technically a revival of the British sports car.
Sure. Yeah, 100%.
Which is a huge part of like Japanese car culture.
Which is what my father dailies now in the summertime.
Really? So what generation?
Checks out. He's got
It's an NA.
It's an NA. I don't remember what year it is.
Nice.
It's whatever year the special edition was green with the tan leather.
I think a 94?
Maybe 94, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So, yep, that's his summertime daily. And it's like his third Miata. I I think he had a black M edition, then he had a red early car, and now he has the green 94. So
So that
he's
says a lot.
yeah, he likes Miata guy. He's Miata guy for sure. So which, and we've covered this before on the podcast that I'll take a little credit for opening his eyes to some of the Japanese stuff because he also now owns some Mazda RX-7s and a Celica, and he daily drives a Toyota as well. So his other daily is not a Miata, is a Toyota FJ. So he definitely has expanded his interest as well. And I like to think I had something to do with that. Maybe not, but he didn't like RX-7s at all. I know that when I was a teenager because he did not want me to buy one at all. So anyway, so Jeff, what is it that you drive now? I know you told me. I know, but for the fans, for the audience, what is it that you drive? You drive now? What's your project? What's your fun car?
Yeah, so the fun car is a 1984 Porsche 944. So that is the early front engine version of the 944 pre-turbo. So
And
that would
it's
be
the
the fun
early
car.
dash, but it's later than a 924.
Right. So wide body, flare boxy fender goodness that you see on, lots of Radwood things and related
Yeah,
or movies as of late.
we always have a conversation about the Starion versus 944 at work. So that's also where we're very similar because I've always had Starions and you have a 944. So it's like the Starion is kind of the Japanese 944, I guess.
And
Very
they both
similar.
have race history. But what I would say is the 944 is the one that's being featured in more movies lately.
Yeah,
So
because there's more of them
take
out
that.
there.
Oh, well, they did
If we
crush
must make
one
it a
in the Marvel
competition,
movie.
yes.
But
Yeah.
did Jackie Chan ever drive a 944?
That's a good question. Somebody somewhere will probably have that answer. But Liam
Yeah,
Neeson drove a 944, so
Ooh, okay.
did he find his kidnapped daughter while driving it?
no, it's whatever that current movie is. There's a movie
Oh,
something night. He also
Blacklight.
drives like a Hellcat. Blacklight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there's
it.
944 chase scene in there.
Oh, that's interesting. It's funny.
Yeah,
Liam Neeson always seems to get his family kidnapped. I wouldn't want to be related to
There's
him.
also
yeah, he's a terrible father.
Yeah.
There's also a 944 in Gunpowder Milkshake.
Yes, I did watch that.
Netflix.
Yes,
That's a
yeah.
ridiculous
There's
movie.
also a beautiful scene in the latest Disney film, where Marvel film, excuse me, where a 944 gets crushed by a bus. So
Yeah, that
Oh,
one's
yeah.
depressing. You see it for half a second, it gets crushed.
yeah, it's not good. I was very upset as well, actually. I kid obviously, about the Starion being the superior 944, but I also would 100% drive a 944, and there's been some rumors and rumblings about maybe doing that in the future. So I get it. It's just one of those fun things to float back and forth about. So one of the things that I wanted to bring you on to talk about, if you want to just jump right into our topic here,
Let's do it.
we had 2 weeks ago we had Jeremy Nutt on, who is I don't want to ageist comments here, but he is in our age group, me and Andrew, and you are a few years younger than us. And you're on YouTube, but you're also on TikTok, and that's really where you have your following. And I know
Mhm.
you have a pretty strong following on TikTok to the point of being fairly well known in the TikTok automotive media, I would say, right? And Andrew and I, for lack of a better word, are grumpy old men and don't understand TikTok. So I think we get YouTube, we understand YouTube. We were present for like the beginning of YouTube. We were probably, I'd say, what, in our late 20s, Andrew, when that really became a thing?
No,
I guess
no, it was like 2007. So
was it that recent?
yeah, YouTube came
Oh
out
yeah, that's late 20s,
for you.
right? I can't do math. All right, so you were mid 20s, I was late 20s.
Yeah,
So that's when YouTube came out. So we were kind of, still young enough and still, I don't know, I don't want to say hip because neither one of us were ever hip, but we were definitely more in tune with what's going on when YouTube came out. So we've kind of, grown up through adulthood with YouTube always being there. And we don't understand TikTok.
as far as I
So-
understand TikTok, it's basically what Vine was, kind of took over.
Okay.
Do you know what
Yeah,
Vine
but then
was?
Vine, I
Right.
do know what Vine was,
Okay.
yes. But then Vine went away really fast for no apparent reason, and TikTok came out. So is it related? Am I missing something here?
So no, they're not. They're not related. It's the same style of like short form video.
Okay.
But originally, when TikTok came out, it was only 15-second videos. So they've since expanded. I believe you can do up to like as long as 3 minutes now
Okay.
for videos.
Yeah,
But the
15
whole idea is
seconds.
short form.
15 seconds seems like a an awful short form. Like there's no way to even get a point across in 15 seconds.
You'd be
Oh, it's
surprised.
so short.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of these, car videos and stuff. If I'm ever trying to explain something, I probably have to try and revise it, and it will go through like saying something like 20 times before I finally go, "Oh yeah, that sounds good. Doesn't sound rushed, and it fits in 15 seconds."
All right, so that's where I want to start. Car videos. Obviously, you're a car enthusiast. You're
Yep.
on. You're on. I almost said Vine. You're on TikTok to make car videos and to be in the car space.
Right.
Why did you choose TikTok? Was it just because it's what the hot thing was now? Is what's the point of? How did you get there?
All right. Yes, this is good actually. Okay, so I started with YouTube in college as a way of like I want to do more with cars. And originally I was in Flagstaff, Arizona, which isn't a great car scene. There is some good stuff, but it's not like ideal. And just started that on a whim, and it wasn't going great when I moved down to Phoenix. But then when I was like in the midst of like the big car scene that Phoenix has, COVID happened, and
Right.
so all the car events stopped. And I was sitting at home, and I was like, I can't do a lot of my normal content. Like, obviously, I could do various things here and there, but I wanted to still try and do something because I was pretty limited. And then I started seeing like the TikTok advertisements that I'm sure everyone can remember at that point that were just kind of showing up on everything on YouTube. Even I think there were TikTok ads that I was seeing
I'm sure
regularly.
there were. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was
I
just
don't.
like,
I don't
oh, that
remember
looks
because again,
ridiculous.
we're not really the target audience. I don't think so. I don't.
I saw him
I
on
wasn't
TV.
really aware of. I wasn't really aware. Yeah, we talking about cable, Jeff. You know what cable is?
Yeah.
I do. It's overpriced. So essentially, what happened is I just for funsies I had like a good clip of some stuff that I was like, okay, fine. I finally caved, downloaded it. Just kind of looked into it. I was like, you know what? For fun, I'm gonna post one video I had from an event, and I kind of trimmed it down, cut it down, so it like work in like the mobile vertical format that TikTok and like most social media platforms have, and just posted a video, and that video like just started doing pretty well. Then it started doing really well, and then it had like 100,000 views in like a few days. And so I was like, okay, this is the most success I've ever had with any video, any content I've ever put out there so far. So that was like the sort of okay, YouTube was going okay, but it wasn't really going anywhere quickly. And then TikTok just took off, and I was like, okay, there could be something here.
So what is your follower count on TikTok? It's pretty high, right? Something like it's many thousands, obviously, right?
So currently, to the exact follower, it's 73,860.
So that's a lot of people watching your content.
Yeah.
Like a lot of
Yeah, it's
people.
yes. The way I was told to look at it was, even when you only have 5,000 people listening, right? Like 5,000 will fill a lot of stadiums. And then so just anything beyond that is an insane amount of people. Like, could you imagine trying to talk in front of that many people?
No, hundred
So
percent.
it's a lot.
Even just this podcast, which has, 2 or 3 listeners. Actually, only 2 this week because you're a guest instead of a listener. I have a hard time having that conversation, and being aware that everything I'm saying is recorded, and for the lack of
Yes.
a better term, could be used against me in a court of law. So I'm always trying to make sure that I slow myself down and make sure we say the right thing and we don't get ourselves caught out there and saying something that's bad. And I joke that we have 2 or 3 listeners, but we certainly don't have 70,000. And I can't imagine the pressure that must put on you to make sure you're correct in everything you say. Or does it not matter because TikTok is so short form?
So yeah, there is some of that, and it kind of goes. It depends on what content you want to create. Obviously, I don't have top 1% creator stuff like you see some of like the people with 6 million or Charlie D'Amelio and some of those people that have. I want to say like 100 million, but that sounds like a lot. Granted, that's also on a global scale.
It's a lot of people.
But yes, that's like obviously top tier. But still, I mean,
He's on next week.
I'm jaw dropped by what I was able to come to essentially. It's a ton of people, and you do have to watch what you say. And the most frustrating thing is that TikTok doesn't actually let you go back and edit your videos once they're posted. So like if you do something that you mess up or whatever that you notice, you have to delete that video and then restart from there.
Oh, interesting.
So it can be a little bit stressful in that regard.
Well, I know that in my limited experience with video and things, I was just yelled at today on the internet on YouTube, so I can only imagine. And we had what, maybe 50 views of that video already. That's it, and one person yelled
I
at me, so I can only imagine the comments that you get from people. Now, that's another thing I don't understand on TikTok. Can people comment directly to you?
Yeah, so there's obviously there's like DMs, and there's also like Q&A things that people can kind of post to your channel, and then there's also like your obviously your regular comment section for all the videos and things like that. Which you see some, depending on the video, you'll see people turn off comments and things like that. Who are just tired of seeing some of that. But for the most part on my channel, it's generally pretty positive. Obviously, with cars being cars, and obviously all sorts of brochure readers and things like that out there, you will have like the occasional person that'll be like, "Oh, that's not possible," or "That would never happen." But for the most part, I would say it's like generally pretty positive, which is cool.
Which is not the internet.
Not normally, no.
Yeah, yeah. Andrew, what we're talking about is we're doing some of these little videos for work,
Yeah.
and I posted one. We posted one today, in which I am talking about this 1968 Dodge Coronet, and I call it Hemi Orange because the car was repainted in Hemi Orange.
Right.
And the first and only comment so far in the video was, "You dummy, that's vitamin C orange." So I was like,
So
"Cool,
I used to work
thanks."
for 1A Auto, and yeah, we would try not to look at the comments because let's see, when I started there, they had 700,000 subs, and I think now they're over 1.3 million.
There's a
So
lot of
yeah,
subs.
you get a lot
Yeah,
of ridiculous comments sometimes on the videos.
Well,
you
that's
do.
that's
I
why I
think
wondered.
YouTube's worse.
Yeah.
That's why I wondered with TikTok, where you have 70,000 people. Like, we talk about a few thousand, between our Instagram feeds and this podcast, and generally it's pretty positive because it's only a few thousand, and most of them have interacted with us, whether it be through DMs or messages on Facebook or in real life or whatever. We're not just behind a camera, behind the mic. Like, we go to events, people know who we are. So
Hmm.
I think we have a little less of that. I don't know, that unfiltered internet coming our way.
I don't know. Nobody's ever been mean about it for the
That's what I
podcast.
mean. Yeah. And it's funny because after we had that comment on the work, well, actually, it wasn't on YouTube. It was on our Facebook page, which is even better. And Andrew, I'll send you a link to the guy's profile later because it's hysterical. Um, the I forget where I was going with that. Oh, so I went through all of our YouTube content and I read like every comment on our YouTube
Nope,
today.
don't do that.
And there isn't
That's bad.
there
Yeah.
isn't a single negative comment on our whole YouTube.
Oh,
All
that's
right.
I
good.
was quite surprised. I was happily surprised. The only negative comment was some guy told you forgot to put a washer on the uh, Montero hub assembly, Andrew, which I don't think he did. I just think he was being, you know, thinking he knows more than you and trying to correct you for whatever reason. So
I don't remember
that was
which
the
one that
only
was.
like that was the only like semi-negative comment out of everything I looked at. So
Was
we're
that the manual hub one for the first gen?
yeah, yep.
Oh, I don't remember.
So
That
we're either
strangely
doing
did
something
like really
right.
well.
Yeah, it has like 500,000 views or something stupid. Um, 35,000 views, excuse me. Yeah, so we're either doing something very well or nobody's watching, and either way, it's fine because there's no negative comments, so it's all right.
Yeah, that's really good for YouTube.
So, Jeff, what is your, I guess, favorite kind of content to make for TikTok? Is it car show stuff? Is it, sitting down reading something or reviewing something, or what is your? Do you have a preferred kind of content? I know your most viewed video is just a car driving away at a car show, which
Right.
I was like, man, he gets a lot of views, and I was standing right next to you when you recorded that, and nobody cared that I was there. Meanwhile, like a
Yeah.
million people have watched it.
So that's an interesting point. I guess to try and, break it down a little bit more of, I guess, how TikTok works is the whole thing with TikTok is you need to go viral, right?
Okay.
And you need something that's going to, like some of my more, I guess, better videos are ones that can be, appreciated by people who aren't even car people necessarily. So like obviously, I don't know if you guys have seen those Mercedes AMG SUVs that now have the airbag suspension that's meant to get loose out of things like sand and stuff while
Yeah, they
off-roading,
bounce
so
up
they
and
can like
down.
shimmy. Yeah, they bounce themselves, right? But to everybody
Yep.
else, it's just a bouncing SUV for the most part.
Right. They don't care
So
why it's doing it. They just know it's doing it.
right. Yeah, and so stuff like that like will do really well on TikTok just for the sake of like short form what people can appreciate, kind of go viral. Like people are looking for like a funny like short laughing video, but at the same time people also like seeing like cool things on the internet. So it's kind of like one of those like you can just quickly scroll through and like appreciate something. And so the goal is always to go viral in a sense of creating unique content that is interesting and can captivate somebody for 15 seconds, which
Which
sounds
seems
like a
easy.
super short
I
time.
can say hello very slowly for 15 seconds, so I feel like I can. Maybe I can't. That's why I don't. Maybe that's why I don't get TikTok because I can't do anything in 15 seconds.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, that's props to the people, I guess, that can get up there to that, 6 million plus
So
follower
does it
count,
feel
because
like you're just
that's
trying to create content for the sake of getting views, or do you create content that you actually like as well? Like, what is the
yes.
breakdown of that?
So, I mean, I'd be lying if I said the views didn't help motivate you, right? Obviously, it's always nice to get feedback whenever you feel like you're doing something well.
Sure.
And so getting comments and views obviously helps a lot with that. But at the same time, it's a great way to express yourself. So it's helped, I would say, drive some of the things I want to do in terms of just getting stuff out there. And I think the best part, and this even goes back to your question earlier. So the other day, I decided to go live while attempting to wrap the hood of my 944 matte black.
Hmm.
Right. So I had done some other stuff, put some side panels on it, wrapped the fog lights and some other stuff. So I thought I kind of knew what I was doing for the most part with wrapping stuff. Right. Turns out hood is much more complicated. So props to everyone that works at a wrap shop. It's really hard. I figured I'd start with my hood. The hood on the 944 is fairly square. There's some like major curves where it follows the windshield and some stuff like that, but it's mostly square. So I thought it would be easy. But what happened was during the live stream, I actually had two guys that worked at a wrap shop jump into the live stream and were like feeding advice into the comment section during the live stream. And so some of the stuff they said was actually like really useful to me and like helped me actually wrap the car, which was incredible to think that that type of thing would happen on like, the internet, for example, but also like just through this, random TikTok app, right?
Yeah, that's cool because I don't think of TikTok as being as personable as say like an Instagram account, where sure there are some Instagram accounts that have 70,000 followers, million followers, whatever, two
Mm-hmm.
million followers.
Yep.
But the way we use Instagram is that it's a smaller microcosm of people that again, because we don't have that million follower thing. It's a little more personable, and the people that generally interact with us beyond liking pictures are people that have interacted with us before. So we haven't really seen that same kind of random stranger offering a ton of advice while doing that. I think the last thing Andrew and I that we did live, Andrew, was that the old bread to remove the pilot bearing trick,
I think that was one of the last ones we tried.
and that was like 4 years ago. So maybe we're missing something by not doing live content. But to me, what I always hated about live content and that kind of stuff was that once you're gone, once you're done, it's done. It wasn't like it was there to be seen later on, which I think is why I kind of stayed away from it in the first place. Is that way on TikTok as well?
So it's no. So and it might have to do with some of the like social media algorithms. So one of the things I'll do is occasionally I'll also go live at car shows, right? Kind of share the Phoenix automotive environment with other people on TikTok, which you'll have some people reach out and go, oh my goodness, thank you so much, you've made my Saturday morning or whatever, right? Because obviously not everybody is fortunate enough to be in like a environment like Phoenix. Like Phoenix actually has a really good car scene, and I know most of the time, like the comments I'll get, even while live streaming car shows in Phoenix, is this in California? Is this in Dubai? Whatever it is, like stuff like that. And I'm like, no, this is Phoenix, Arizona. Like this is what our car shows are like and stuff. This is
To be
as good
fair,
as it gets.
parts of Arizona look like California and parts look like Dubai, so
And
that makes
Dubai,
sense.
yeah, oh,
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That makes total sense there. But
yeah,
oh my goodness,
that's
I already
really neat to
forgot.
get our car scene out there and get people knowing what we're
Yes.
doing because I grew up on the East Coast. Andrew's still on the East Coast. I don't know what Andrew's thoughts about Arizona were before he started visiting out here. What, 10, 15 years ago now, Andrew? But
Yeah, I don't know.
I know that yeah, a long time ago, put it that way. But I know that before I ever came here, all I was ever taught about Arizona was the Wild West. Like it was just
Mm.
swinging saloon doors and cacti and cowboys and Indians. That's was legitimately what it was in you know 1998. Like there wasn't anything else out here. It was just there wasn't cars, there wasn't cities. It was just desert. And I think it's important to kind of express to people what actually happens out here. Like I have friends back east that to this day still just assume that I live in a house on a bed of scorpions, and I have to truck my water in from the mountains every day. So
What you
it's
do? That's the downside.
right. That's why nobody should move here because it's
Yeah,
very
don't move
difficult.
here.
Yeah, and it's quite full. We're full. Get out of here.
Yeah,
Actually, honestly, it is one of the largest growing metropolitan areas in the whole
it
country.
is.
They
It
say
is.
something like I don't know, was it 3,000 people a week are moving into Phoenix?
Yeah, I
Um,
forget where it ranks there, but I think it's the sixth largest city in the U.S. Even
it's
I
pretty
could be
pretty
wrong,
big.
but
It's 5 million plus people. So and the beauty of that is when you have that many people in one city, chances of there being more than one that are into the same thing are pretty high. If you're the 944 guy in southern Indiana, you're probably the 944 guy.
yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
you're a 944 guy in Phoenix, and I know like four more 944 guys. And I'm sure you know
yes.
even more than me because you're in the 944 world. So
Yeah, you know what the worst part is there's a lot of them that have a lot nicer 944s than I do. That's the worst part.
well, that's why you get to lean into the shipbox angle.
Right.
That's what
Well,
Andrew
that's
and I learned a long time ago.
yeah. I'm currently working on trying to differentiate it from some of the other cars. Right. I've accepted that they built enough 944s that I can start modifying it and not feel guilty. So
Yeah, well, that's why I have the flat Starion, and we call it the Ratty Flatty because there was no plans to make that particular car super nice. It was just to drive it and enjoy it as is because again, there's
It's not even
five
close to
million
sort
people
of
here.
nice, man.
well,
Wow,
you'll never be afraid of leaving it in the parking lot then.
that cut deep. No, I am afraid of leaving it in the parking lot because I'm afraid that wherever I leave it, somebody that owns the property is going to be mad that I leave fluids all over their parking lot. So, or that it will be towed for being an abandoned vehicle. No, it's not even sort of nice. Andrew is right. It has a very nice interior, but everything the interior is attached to is hot garbage.
You can
So
always fix
it's okay.
cosmetics.
Uh,
I would say the interior is usually harder to fix. If I've learned anything from my car, it's interior components, like good condition interior components, are harder to find than cleaning up the exterior.
yeah, which is the reason I brought the car here, and
This is
that's
a
Andrew will make fun of me for it because I haven't done it yet, but I had legitimately been trying to find a nice, straight, not dented, damaged Arizona Starion flat car that just has a torched interior, so that I can
Hmm.
swap my nice interior over to it. That's the whole reason the car is here because mechanically the car was totally fine when I parked it, and the interior was fine. I just need to find a garbage, you know, totally torched junk, torn seats, broken dashboard, Phoenix, Arizona car to swap everything over to. And I've almost bought one like 3 times. It hasn't happened yet. So I can't tell if Andrew's laughing at me or yawning, but either way, I'm offended. So
oh, sorry, I yawned real quick. I thought it was far enough from the mic.
nope.
No, that's
It sounded like a laugh though. So there you go.
no, that's definitely an East Coast conundrum. You, the interiors will be nice, but the body will be rotted away. So
Well,
What-
and the whole key play is to take a New England car and take an Arizona car and make one car out of two.
yep.
So
or
that's the cheapest way to do it.
or you turn it into a drift kart. So chop the body off, roll cage, nice interior, turns into an
Yeah, but
Arizona
then
Not much
convertible.
body left to chop off.
yeah, Mother Nature has done most of the drift karting of my car.
Speed up the
So
rest. Yeah.
yeah, the problem is he's also taking care of some areas that would need to be, I guess, more structurally sound if I were to chop the rest of the body off. Also, I hate
Hmm.
drift karts, so I'm not going to do that. But
Have you ever
um,
driven one?
I've never driven one, and they were cool when they first came out. People first started doing them. I'm like, these are kind of neat. And then everybody was like, "Man, that looks like a death trap." And that dude got killed in his.
Wait, what?
And yeah, one of the first famous ones to come out. I don't remember. I think it was a Honda
Oh
based one.
wow.
And everybody's like, "Yeah, you're probably gonna die in that." And like 3 days later, he was T-boned by a Dodge van.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Don't drive it on the street. That sounds like a terrible idea.
right. So uh, again, as I've said on previous episodes of this podcast, I am more aware of accidents now than I had been in the past. You know, so I'm a little bit more temporarily scared of getting killed in a car accident. I'm sure that will pass once it's been another few months of not getting in a car accident, but I'm still
Yeah.
I'm
If
still
it
kind
makes
of
you feel
there.
any better, so my Ram was recently rear-ended. Well, not recently, less recently than your accident.
Yeah,
But when it was rear-ended, I still check my mirror regularly whenever somebody's
right.
pulling up behind me. So I think that's a normal reaction to have to car accidents. Is to
We've
like
talked about
be
that before. Like we drive differently in our vintage cars than we do in our modern cars anyway. You know,
right.
we're I heightened awareness when driving a vintage car or a motorcycle in traffic. So,
Yes.
but anyway, now that we're way off topic, your 944. Let's turn the tables a little bit here, and we'll get back to TikTok with the 944 in a minute. But your 944, you talked about how you don't think it's as nice as others. I've told you a lot of times that I think the car is really cool the way it sits. It looks really good. It's got that like it's got an honest patina about it. I wouldn't call it a crap can. It looks nice. It's very presentable. It just looks like it's a 1984 car, so it has a little bit of wear from being around for almost as long as I've been around. So that makes it okay. Um, what are the plans for the car, and what have you recently gone through? You want to give us a quick, not necessarily quick overall everything, but what are some of your project car stuff that you've done? Because one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because you're coming from a different side of automotive enthusiasm than we are, whereas you are significantly younger than us. So, you're earlier on in your whole journey of automotive enthusiasm than we are. I just kind
Mhm.
of wanted a fresh outlook on some things that maybe might be a little refreshing for us and for some of our listeners that are in their,
Okay.
early middle age,
So
I guess.
yeah. So to break it down, I guess I should start with why how I ended up with a 944. So originally, I was looking for something that I could buy in cash, not have any payments, something that was affordable but fun. So really, what I was looking for was a manual, fun car that was rear-wheel drive. That was pretty much the only hard rule. It's got to be manual. It's got to be rear-wheel drive. So I was looking at things like C4 Corvettes were kind of in the same price range, like New Edge Mustangs were kind of in that price range. Obviously, 944s were in there. There are a couple other cars, just like things I was looking at. Originally, there was a car down in Mexico, like not in Mexico, but on the border of Arizona and Mexico. And they had a 944 for $5,000, I want to say, but the interior was torched. So it would have been a perfect Brad type of car.
Right.
But then this one, and I bought it. This one came up on Facebook, and I bought it the same day. Car comes up, same asking price as the car that was down in off the border of Mexico and Arizona, and same price. And so I went same day, bought the car as soon as I showed up, bought it. The car has 80,000 miles, or 81 now, about 81,000 miles. It's an 84, so like we mentioned, it's got the early stuff. So that's the second year, I believe, of 944 production. 5-speed manual, brown and tan interior, but guards red on the exterior. What I've gone through with it, so it has since caught fire twice. It's electrical fires, so that involved I got a new old stock harness and replaced the entire wiring harness in the car for all the engine management stuff, which included new alternators, some other new parts, and things like that. And now the car runs beautifully. So far, knock on wood. So the car had all sorts of things wrong with it. Obviously, it wasn't a perfect car. There were things like door handles weren't working, pop-up headlights were not functional at all. There are a few other, miscellaneous things that are just not quite right. So I've been taking my time slowly repairing it. Just kind of getting through it. Obviously, the fire was a bigger setback. That was a little bit unexpected. So now I know more to look at wiring, at least for 80s cars and things like that. You probably don't have to worry about it so much with 60s stuff, obviously.
No, they still
So I've
burn.
just kind of been repairing it. Yeah, I suppose it
I think
depends. But
one of the things that impressed me early on, meeting you and learning about your car was that you had a fire. Actually, I think you were on the way to work when it caught fire.
yeah, I
Um,
was actually. Yep.
we did a little diag in the parking lot and made sure you could make it home without catching a fire again by unplugging the right things. and you made it home, and then I've known a lot of people over the years that they'll get to that level in their car. Uh,
Hmm.
One of them probably being me. And then I would never see the car in the work parking lot again.
Hmm.
It would just languish in your garage. You would never touch it. You'd never fix it, and it would just be too daunting of a task to replace an entire wiring harness. That's for your first major repair on the car. Like a wiring harness is not an easy repair. That's not something that you can just get in there with lefty loosey, righty tighty and fix it. I mean, it involves planning and taking a lot of the car apart and remembering how to put it back together and properly running the
Yes.
wires and making sure that they have the current going through them and diagging wiring. And that's short of rebuilding an engine, I think that wiring problems like that scare more enthusiasts than anything else. So the fact that the car wasn't at work for like, I don't know what, 2.5 3 weeks because you're most of it waiting for the parts, and you
Yep.
just fixed it by yourself in your garage, and then it came back to work, and you're like, well, I made it here, but my turn signals don't work, got to figure that out. And then you went home and fixed that, and then I was just impressed by the drive that you had to actually do that. And I know too many people, and like I said, I'm guilty of this myself. Andrew will tell you that whenever I used to break a car, I would just park it and buy another one. So, which is why I'm in the product I'm in now, but that's beside the point. So it was kind of refreshing for me to see the car back in the parking lot one day and be like, man, he dug into it, he knew what he was doing, or if he didn't know what he was doing, he faked his way through it until it worked, and now you could
Lots
probably
of that.
replace wiring in most cars. It doesn't. It's kind of a
Yeah.
universal thing to learn, and now that you know how to do it, that's pretty good. I've listened. Andrew has done a wiring harness. I've never done a wiring harness. Andrew's always helped me with wiring because I have always been, frankly, scared of it as well. So I was definitely impressed.
Well, I would say fear is kind of what drove me to that. First, thank you. I appreciate the kind words, but fear is what drove me to it. So when I was kind of looking over the car, I started looking at things like obviously on the early cars, the fuse boxes underneath the dash. And when I was taking a look at that, I saw a lot of raw wires,
Right.
and that was one of those things that it was like, okay, I could replace, try to replace some of the wires and things that are obviously showing, but it would, who's to say that the fire wouldn't start from another part of the car? If even if I replaced those bits of wires and even some of the connectors were a little bit melted, and I figure, hey, look, the lights, the light harness burned up the first time. The second time it burned. These are all electrical fires. The alternator wiring harness burned up. So it was pretty much well toasted at that point. There's even some black spots on the hood still from where the fire did its best to try and burn the car down. But it was one of those things that it was like, okay, the only way to do this right would be to replace the harness, which obviously the right way would be getting lots of plastic baggies with sticky notes and labels. And you put every single bolt and all of the pieces, take tons of photos, which I didn't even take enough photos. I knew to take photos from my experience of working on older cars with my dad growing up. I knew to take photos, and I still didn't take enough photos when I was putting it back together. So it is a lot, but I would say, like, if you take your time, I would say it's definitely doable.
Yeah. No. It's. Hey, listen. I'm happy every time I see it at work because it's nice not being the only person that likes driving old, questionable reliability cars to the office in the morning sometimes. So it's it's
Well,
it's good to see it, and it definitely. I don't know. I guess it's that whole like everybody talks about the end times of automotive enthusiasm and how nobody's going to care anymore, and all the cars we care about are going in the trash. And then you're somebody in your 20s who is just as into it as Andrew and I were at that age, and just as into it as your dad was at that age. And obviously you had that experience from your dad, but there's a lot of younger people that I've met through going to the car events. So some of them are trash and they drive new Chargers and do donuts in intersections, but some of them are good and they'll fix a wiring harness on a 944, or build a hot rod Miata from the ground up, or whatever the case may be. There's a good amount of young car people out there, and I think that's what's kind of important to remind people that we're not a dying breed. Maybe it's the fact that there's 500 or 5 million people here, and I'm just seeing more of it here. But man, there's a car event almost every night in this city, so
it's
they might not all
true,
be
but
the
I
one you want to go to, but there is something.
well, I think that what cars are, being interested in by the various ages, I think, is what's changing a lot, though, right?
I think it is, but I think a lot of it is financial gatekeeping.
Mm,
It'd be very difficult for you to go out and buy a muscle car at 22 years old, 23 years old, just because
right.
the pricing is out of control. You know, you want to buy a '57 Chevy, you better have $50,000. So it's, I bet that young people would love to own these cars, and I think what we're going to see is, as the older generation moves on, some of those, maybe the numbers matching cars and the crazy, heavy cars and matching number big blocks won't go down a lot, but a lot of the less desirable stuff is going to start falling in price when there's less buyers for them. It's just the way it's going to be. And I'm hoping that 10, 20 years from now, when there's less buyers whose first car was a '57 Chevy, that maybe a '57 Chevy price will drop a lot, and somebody who's 25 in the next 15, 20 years will be like, oh, that's a cool old car, I bet I can make that work, and keep
Hmm.
that car on the road. So I think that's kind of a thing that's happening. And you said it yourself, when you're looking to buy a car, you wanted to buy a fun toy car that you could pay for cash.
Hmm.
And that's how you wound up in a 944. Like, it wasn't you grew up with a picture of a 944 on your wall and you're like, someday I'm going to have a 944. It was kind of this is what I want, and whatever I can get in that price range is how I want to buy it. And that's, I think more people need to do that. you know
Yeah, I think there's something out there for everybody. I think a lot of people get caught up in, I have to get this car or that car or whatever's new and trendy, right? But I think because like this, even the 944 gets a fair amount of comments, and it's not an expensive car. They're pretty reasonably priced, I would say, for what they are.
I would say at 5 grand with 80,000 miles, you did well, even with the work you've had to do. You're certainly not upside down on that car, and it's gained value since you bought it. But I think you did pretty well at $5,000 in that car for sure, or whatever you paid for the car in that range. Anything that number or less is great. Put it that way.
What are the kids buying these days?
Other than Chargers, Challengers, Camaros, Mustangs, or Chal Cam Must Charge, what is it? Chal Cam Must
Challenger,
Charges.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's a bunch of jokes like
that's
that.
what the kids are mostly buying. But what we're seeing a lot of, I would say, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, because you might be a little closer to it than I am, but we're seeing a lot of JDM import stuff.
Hmm.
Not R32 GTRs and
No.
R33 GTRs so much, but like Mitsubishi FTO or a Nissan Laurel sedan or a Toyota Crown sedan, or just these kind of fairly pedestrian cars in Japan that are exotic here because they're right hand drive and because they're a
Hmm.
car we didn't get. Um, you can buy a nice JDM import for $10,000. If you're not looking for that, Honda Beat or AutoZam or R32 or Evo. If you just want like a quirky kind of different Japanese import that's a rear wheel drive sedan, which there are way more rear wheel drive sedans in Japan than there were here.
Yeah.
You can buy a car for $10,000 or so. Obviously, there's still Miatas everywhere, Honda Civics everywhere. It's just
I
kind
was
of
gonna say all the drift tex cars. Yeah.
all the drift tax cars, unfortunately.
Well.
But even those are starting to become even rare out here, where they're more plentiful. Like, we don't see a lot of 240SXs at shows anymore. You go to
Hmm.
a show like PAVS on a Saturday night, and you'll see some of the 350Z drift cars, but maybe one
Yep.
240. We were talking the other day. I was talking the other day with some friends because I haven't seen a clean FC RX-7 that's not a convertible in a long time.
Well, that was my
No,
point
nobody
to
has
you.
them. They don't exist.
Yeah, they don't. It's also hard to find a manual car. I have not seen a manual hardtop FCRX7 like
Right.
ever
And
for sale.
yeah, they're very hardly ever come up. And when they do come up, they're absolutely trashed. Or somebody bought it to do a drift car and never finished it, but they got to the point of taking it apart, and that's it.
All right.
Right.
So yeah,
So let me ask you both this: if you had 5 grand, you know what you paid for the 944,
Hmm.
and you were going to buy a fun car today, what would you try to buy?
whatever car is $5,000. You almost can't buy an Miata for that anymore either, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can buy one with problems for that.
Yeah. I know what I would buy, and it's only because I'm not normal as everybody else. But um, like an early '80s Corolla sedan, like I think they call it a TE 72. So they were the square body sedans, and they're 3 to 5 grand for a driver.
I can see some younger kids getting into that.
And that's why I pointed that out, because there are a few young kids that have them here. There's a tan colored station wagon that goes to a 4x4. I'm sure Jeff has seen it before. Um, which actually the driver of it drives up to 4x4 for Saturday morning meets from Tucson. So it's like a 2 hour drive to get there for 7:30 in the morning. So that's dedication in a 1981 Corolla. So, but there's
Yeah,
definitely a few of those out there. You know, the A86s have the drift tax. You can't buy one of those for $5,000 anymore.
no.
I would say a
Even
350Z, maybe. That's one of the popular
I don't
ones.
think those have those dipped into 5,000.
Some of the ones that the kids are going to buy are. Some
Yeah,
of
I
them
suppose
are some of them are
if you
down there.
consider it's pretty ratty. I guess
Yeah,
for the sake of, I don't want to say 944 because that seems too cliche. What I will say is, since a couple have come across my Facebook feed, is the R107/C107 Mercedes. I think is a great one because they come in both. They come with a hard top
yeah.
typically.
This is where you identify as an old man, though.
Okay, so if you want to take
So
sports car, then I'm going to say C4 Corvette because you don't pay Porsche tax for having the Porsche badge associated
yeah,
with it.
I guess you could probably buy an early C4 for $5,000 still.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
an automatic. Hmm.
Yeah, you're not going to get a late model C4, but you can probably get an early C4 for $5,000. The only
New Age
issue with
Mustangs.
buying, yeah, those are creeping, but they're still there. I think the only issue with buying a Corvette for somebody who's young is insurance is going to be a nightmare. Just because it's a Corvette, they have that stigma. I'm sure insuring a 944 isn't super cheap either, because it's a Porsche and it's a 2-seat car. So I'm sure it costs
Yeah,
significantly more than your pickup truck.
it doesn't actually. It's definitely less expensive than the pickup truck.
Oh,
Pickup truck makes you second guess a lot of things. Don't buy a V8 pickup truck if you live in a big city and commute a lot and don't need the bed every day.
right. Oh, I think that's a statement that everybody should hear and live by. But it's good to have when you need it, but it's such a pain when you don't.
Right. Yeah. Right. I
As
know. I
somebody
use it
who,
like once every 6 months.
yeah, as somebody who dailyed a giant pickup truck for a while, I get it. It's more burdensome than it is practical most of the time. But anyway, so going back to TikTok, and combining it with your 944 and car stuff, is there a lot of car repair stuff on TikTok, or is that more still on YouTube?
Yes, Chris Fix is on TikTok. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him.
oh
I'm
yes,
kind of familiar. Andrew knows who he is for sure. Yep.
yeah. Top competitor when we were at 1A.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he I mean, not Chris Fix aside, there's lots of guys that actually post a lot of like useful tips. There's a couple people that I've followed that'll people will even do build guides. So what they'll do is you can do playlists and stuff like that. So people will make just several parts, like several part videos, just talking about like different things that they're doing. So like people will be like, doing Bondo filler, whatever, repair stuff, gluing stuff, and then all the way through like paint stages, and just make like 8 to 10 videos, as opposed to like one YouTube video maybe. And they'll make like repair tutorials essentially for cars, as well as like people will make build guides and stuff. Like I remember one guy that had a Saturn. I forget the model, but he was essentially giving it an active aero wing, and he did a
Interesting.
whole guide through TikTok about how he was going to add that wing to the car, all the research and things that he was doing. So yes, but it's in a very different form.
Interesting. That seems like a YouTube video just broken up into multiple videos.
Yeah, kind of, which is part of the problem. I know some people complain about how, it's part of like the social media stuff where people will intentionally break up the video, like, ooh, watch part two to find out the answer type of thing. And that
Yeah,
stuff
I
just drives me up the wall. But,
drive more views that way, the more watch through.
right. Yeah.
Because if you've got a super long YouTube video, people aren't necessarily watching the whole thing. You got to hit that
Hmm.
sweet spot of where the engagement is long enough. That's also part of the algorithm. It's
Right.
this whole crazy thing.
Yeah. So there is some of that. But for the most part, there's everything for the car community on there. It's great.
All right. I don't want to join, but I would like to encourage people who are on to follow you there. So I don't want to I'm not gonna say I think that I'll see you on there, but I definitely hope that everybody listening to this episode that is on there will go ahead and follow Jalopy Jeff, because I have seen some of your content. There is some really neat stuff on there. Um, I've seen it, by searching for it when I first heard that you had this big, TikTok following. I was like, what is this all about? And anytime you hear a coworker has a YouTube channel, obviously you look at it, and you want to you want to try to find ammo to make fun of your coworkers when you're at work, right? So you have to watch their YouTube videos. But
Right.
um, we have a couple others at work that have YouTube channels as well, so it's definitely a funny way to camaraderie, I guess. But yeah, so Jalopy Jeff, is it Jalopy Jeff AZ is your Instagram? Is that
That's
also your TikTok?
no. So the Instagram is just Jalopy Jeff AZ because the guy that holds the Jalopy Jeff name on Instagram just has it, and there's nothing I can do about that. So I'm kind of out of luck on Instagram, but it's normally just Jalopy Jeff.
Okay, that's what it is on YouTube and on
Right.
TikTok.
TikTok.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
excellent.
Which, by the way, if you guys should get on there. There's plenty of short. People like most of the podcasts will like just put like highlights from various things.
That
So you
involves
guys have
work.
plenty of content from
Think
some of the
I don't
stuff.
think we want to do that. Editing, breaking things down. Jeez, that's a little rough. Honestly, maybe you're right. Maybe we should have more of a. It's, I don't know. We struggle with this all the time. Just the whole understanding of social media and logarithms is so hard,
It
especially
is.
when you are flagged by the social media companies as a business.
Right.
So Instagram and Facebook think that we make money with this, so they want us to pay them money in order to
Mm,
be promoted through their platforms, and it becomes difficult. And I can post the same image, and we have a similar follow count. I'd say probably, Andrew, you and I personally, and the auto off topic page, right? And we
Yeah,
can
they're pretty close
post,
now.
yeah, we can post the same content on all three of our pages, and Andrew and my personal pages will get a lot more, a ton more likes, a ton more engagement, and the podcast page will, if we get 200 likes in a photo, that same picture on our podcast page will get 48. And I just think it's because we've been marked. We're considered to be a business, and you know, they want their money. So
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like our follower count is a lot of bots either. It's pretty much real people.
no, I have been pretty good about deleting new followers that are clearly bots.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's kept our count to a lower number than maybe we'd like to see. It's not that we don't have anybody. We have, almost a couple thousand, but it just becomes, we delete a lot. If somebody comes through and it doesn't look normal, then it's gone immediately and blocked. So I think our block count is probably as much as our follower count. So it's probably part of the reason, but can't really figure out the logarithms, and I'd like to figure those out, but learning another logarithm would be
well,
difficult as well. So
at the same time, like you guys do for the podcast, at the end of the day, you just have to do it because you enjoy it. Like if you guys opened up
exactly.
TikTok or even YouTube Shorts, you could open it up with something along the lines of, project car updates for auto off topic, so to speak.
All right.
Yeah.
I get,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
that makes sense.
I've been trying to get you to do that. You just
YouTube Shorts, even I have some videos that don't do well on TikTok, but then will do really well on YouTube Shorts, which is like the same thing as TikTok, but for YouTube.
And it's the same thing as like an Instagram story too, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I've thrown a couple videos on ours just recently that are just simple stuff. Like I did the air filter in the Golf, like
Yeah.
just for the heck of it, because it's easy and people look for that stuff.
Yeah. Do it.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure how to do video right. And I guess I get over my head trying to think about it. So
Yeah, well, you didn't. I used to do it every day for a while, so
yeah, it was your job. You learned how to do it through work, whereas I never did that. So
You got to just do it sometimes, Brad.
yeah, well, I need you to come over and help me do it.
Well, happily.
Show me what to do. Show me
happily.
what to do.
sometimes you just do it, and like one might stick, and like the other ones won't, and then you'll get it like a few videos later, like one will stick.
Yep.
It's
That's
just
all it
it's
takes
just
is
like
one.
weird. Like it just doesn't. You can't.
that's the thing I have about everything though is, and this is a podcast about mental illness is a whole other story, but our mental blocks, I should say, not mental illness. I have a hard enough time sometimes getting out there and starting to work on something, let alone setting up video cameras before I do it. I think that's part of my issue is, it takes me every bit of being in my head sometimes just to go open the garage and work on something that making more work to start doing it is pretty detrimental to me doing anything. So
It does take longer to do things sometimes when
Oh
you
yeah,
record them. Hmm.
yeah.
definitely. Um, so like yeah, some of those parts I have coming, I'll be making videos on those. There's a company that's making 3D printed clips, spoiler clips for DSMs.
Oh, okay. I need those too.
So yeah, so my spoiler was super loose like 2 years ago, and it was just like I was bored like one day, I had the day off, and I fixed it, but I had to fix it with cable ties because the clip didn't exist anymore; it was broken, and I didn't realize that this company was making them, or I don't think they had made them yet. But now they came out with um, the U-shaped clips and the clip with the threaded insert that holds the
Hmm.
spoiler on. So I'll do a because I can do that right in my garage right now, even in the wintertime, because the car's just sitting there in the garage. I can
Right.
pop the hatch up and do that, and
Yeah,
just
my Eclipse sounds like the rear suspension is falling out of it when you go around a corner, but it's
yeah. So
actually
you'll
the
need these.
spoiler
So I
bending.
can do one, and then you can do a follow up video. Oh, I'm watching Andrew's video and I'm doing it.
Oh, like a reaction video.
Yeah, maybe I'll send it to them and they'll send us a free set for you.
Oh, perfect.
There
Andrew,
you
do my
go.
bidding for me.
Ooh.
It's called marketing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's one of the things that I really want to get to start doing is video, and I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 more. It's just getting the energy to do it. Like I have that 1981 Toyota Cressida that I have not touched really since I brought it home, and part of that is because I want to video the whole thing. Like this is the first time I've touched this car's been touched since 1999 or whatever year it was parked, and just kind of do that, bringing it back from the dead thing. But it's just getting the motivation and know how to do it. I don't know. I think I'm scared, guys. Help me out here.
I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, you just got to do it. Keep it simple. Get a tripod. You don't even just
I
start
have all the
rolling, I guess,
equipment.
right?
I have cameras and memory cards and lenses and tripods and you know everything. I've all the stuff to do it. I just don't ever
If you
do
look
it.
at the videos that are out there, they don't have to be like what you'd see on TV. There used to
Right.
be the expectation that you had to make a video as good as what was on television,
Right.
and then eventually people just don't care. As long as you can
I
like hear and see what's going on and it's engaging, the
Hmm.
quality almost doesn't matter so much. I mean, it can't
Yeah.
be
I
like
think
totally
honestly that
horrible, but
some of the TV stuff is going back to YouTube quality. So I guess
yeah,
it's
yeah, because it's just cheaper. It's just the way it's like the speed and how fast you need to make this content. It's just
yeah.
not going to be as polished. Like everybody wanted stuff to be like Top Gear, and that's just not possible because Top Gear is Top Gear, and it's its own
Right.
thing.
Yeah, their budget is beyond any other car shows, from my understanding.
Yeah.
But at the same time, from my experience, I've put a lot of time even into TikTok videos, which again aren't even that long. And I'll put a lot of time, research, editing, whatever, into a video, and it will flop. And of course, that video, that you spent 3 seconds looking at and putting together, that's the one that'll do really well. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
sometimes you just got to accept that even if you put maximum effort into every single video, it won't always pay off. And it's more important, like you mentioned, just to get the content out there in a way that makes sense.
All right. Well, I'm gonna make a TikTok and I'm just gonna follow you and nothing else. So I'll be able to see your videos. I don't want to get sucked in. That's another thing too with social media is if you follow too much of it, you get sucked in and you don't do anything for yourself. So I think it's part of the reason I haven't taken the plunge either. So I don't want to get into the whole habit of watching TikTok videos. So I already
Oh,
waste enough time on my
but
phone.
there's rally videos on TikTok.
There's rally videos on YouTube. It's fine.
Well, yeah, it's taken a while, but all of the brands are now coming over to TikTok. So there's like WRC is on there now, I believe.
Which that means
Subaru.
it's over now, right? Now I gotta get on the next thing before it gets popular, so I can get in early.
Well, yeah, getting in early helps too, I
Yeah,
suppose. But at the end of the day, I think this platform has helped a lot of people that weren't famous, sort of find something to do. Like there's a guy that's built Miata, and I believe he has like a 996, 911 as well. And he does all sorts of really interesting, amazing content. I think his name is OMG Miata. I would definitely recommend checking him out.
Wait, that sounds familiar. Is
Yeah,
it
because
red
it is
Yes, the
red.
red
with
Miata.
the Rocket Bunny kid or whatever it is?
I'm, I will tell you right now,
It
Andrew,
was
that
at
another one of
JCCS.
it was
Yeah.
one of our other friends and listeners
Like
um,
Customero.
is very anti OMG Miata. So that's why you're aware of him, because in his page he constantly posts things that are making fun of OMG Miata's content. So
Yeah,
that's
I don't
probably why
remember who
you've
it
heard of
is,
it.
but
Yeah,
no, I've seen it. I've seen it elsewhere
yeah,
on Twitter and stuff. I know the car.
yes, yeah. He's definitely a polarizing individual.
I
So
guess. I mean,
yeah,
it's a red Miata with, I don't know, flares and decent looking wheels. I don't know.
he has a couple $100,000 in aftermarket parts on a Miata.
Sure,
Yes.
Um,
whatever. Chase your
and
bliss, man.
well, yeah, but I think what the issue is that from my understanding, he makes it all about how much money he has into his Miata, and that's
Oh,
the issue.
okay.
Yeah,
I've only ever looked
Oh,
at pictures of the car. I don't watch
yeah,
these videos.
yeah. It's neat looking. I bet it drives like absolute turd because it's twice as wide as a Miata is supposed to be. But that's neither here nor there.
It's like the JDM Supreme guy. I'm like, whatever.
Yep,
Car collection's
yep,
really cool, and you have really good taste, and I appreciate that you're preserving these cars.
yeah.
But like, I don't know, you're kind of
But
like a grading person.
yep, exactly. There's a few of those out there, but find who you want to find. And I don't know much about OMG Miata. I'm only speaking from secondhand experience. Maybe I would like his stuff. I just don't know what it is. But I will. If I do create a TikTok, Jeff, I'll go over there. Yeah, I guess that's gonna do it, Jeff. Thanks for coming on. Like that was actually fun, pretty fun.
yeah.
Um,
Thank you guys.
I do look forward to seeing your car as it progresses. I know what some of your plan is, and
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Put it that way.
Yeah.
So
We'll see what
when
happens as the.
we, we figure out
I
your
was just,
driving light situation, I'm excited about that. So,
yeah.
and Andrew and I are all about the oversized driving lights. So
Baby steps. Oh, yeah.
Mm.
yeah, we're way into that.
Brad
Pretty
knows how to
cool.
make a harness.
I actually I do. I thanks to Andrew, he taught me how to make a light
It's,
harness for driving lights. Very
I
simple.
mean, the light harness setup for Hellas is on the internet. You can find the wiring diagram.
Yep, yep. It's very simple. It's just a switch and a relay, pretty much. So
Yeah,
Oh wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
I would do a
yep,
switch to ground though. Do a ground
yep,
switch,
yep. Absolutely. Switch to ground and then the relay, and then
because then that way you're only
um,
running the ground wire into the cabin. It's not powered.
yep, and keyed power as well, so you don't leave them on.
Yep.
Ask me how I know that. Um, well, the problem with driving lights is they're not wired into your key buzzer. So you leave your headlights on, it buzzes at you. But if you leave your
Right.
driving lights on, it doesn't buzz at you. And then you go out to go to work the next day, and your car's dead. So
I think the
Oh,
last
good.
couple times we've uh, done the trigger wire for the relay. I think maybe off of one of the headlight wires.
we did that on the. We rewired the Starion fog lights. We did that, and we did that on your truck and my Montero. On my Colt, we don't have them to keyed power. It's always live. Just
Oh yeah,
because the way the harness was, we didn't want to cut into the harness.
yeah.
So it all depends. But anyway, so one more time, social media. You are Jalopy Jeff AZ on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
Jalopy Jeff
Jalopy Jeff
on
everywhere else.
YouTube and TikTok and anywhere else. Or are those the main ones?
Yeah, it's mostly YouTube and TikTok for video format stuff.
Okay, excellent. All right, you can find me at TSISS350. You can find the podcast at Auto Off Topic Podcast on Facebook and Auto Off Topic on Instagram. And I think also, is it Auto Off Topic on Twitter, Andrew?
That's right.
And where can they
And
find you?
I am Racing Anger on Instagram and Racing Anger on Twitter. And we've got Scale Autocast on Instagram as well.
We do, and actually, I think that we should sit down this weekend, Andrew, and record our first episode of that because I think we should. I definitely have some time if you do. So
Yeah,
we're
I
supposed to
probably
do it
do.
on the first Monday, and we haven't had a Monday in the month yet. But if we can get it knocked out this weekend, that's going to be good. That's going to be a video format podcast. So that Scale Autocast is obviously going to be scale cars. So doing a video format, we'll be able to show show images of the vehicles or the toy cars that, excuse me, not toy cars, the adult collectible cars
Yeah.
that are in our hands. I think we both bought some new lighting equipment and have a quick little setup to do. But
Hey, that'll be YouTube, so maybe we'll break them up and we'll throw them on a Instagram
TikTok.
stories or something because we already have
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah, honestly, we easily could. We could throw them on stories. The images of the cars. That short part of them right there. So interesting. But yeah, so we also have an Instagram page that is Scale Auto. Sorry, it's
Scale
Auto.
Autocast. Yeah,
Yep.
you got it.
Yep.
All right, cool. So as always, keep cars analog and aim for the roses.